The views, information, and opinions expressed during the following program are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent the views of Access Communications, its representatives, or its employees.
Okay, good evening everyone, and we'll call the March 11th regular council meeting to order. First of all, under presentations, we have none. Could I have a motion, please, to adopt the agenda as presented? Councillor Vroba, seconded by Councillor Clark. Ready for the question? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Next, under minutes, could I have a motion, please, to accept the minutes of the council meeting held on February 26th? Thank you. Councillor Cernick, seconded by Councillor Ford. Ready for the question? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Next, under original communications, delegations, and petitions, we have from Creighton Lodge, Comedy Night sponsored table. I'm thinking, Councillor Vroba, perhaps you could speak to this. Go ahead, please.
Well, I was going to call a conflict, but I won't speak to it.
Oh, okay. Okay, let it be noted. Councillor Vroba is changing her position in council. Okay, what's the wish of council on this? Don't miss out on our annual fundraising dinner, April 20th. Get ready to laugh with comedian Joel Jeffrey and groove to the live music of Justin LaBrache and Carissa Hoffert. Now, I don't know if that's Greg's daughter. I know it's not his wife. Tickets are available for $100 a person, or grab a whole table of 8 for $800. What's the wish of council on this? Councillor Vroba.
Thank you, Your Worship. I was just going to let everybody know that Creighton Lodge is actually owned and operated by the 5 RMs and supported by the City of Estevan. I'm not sure if you guys are able to buy a whole table. I know a couple of the councillors have already purchased tickets individually on their own, and we also sell tickets individually, like so you could buy a half a table, you don't have to buy a full table. We just would like to have you there to support the event because you guys are at the management table.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Vroba. Okay, members of council, Councillor Clark.
Thanks, Your Worship. I'll make the motion that we purchase a table. I think it's within the community, they provide a great service, and I think for us to support them as a partner in that service would be the right thing to do.
Okay, thank you. Have we got a seconder? Councillor Cernick? Okay, any further dialogue, questions, comments, observations? Seeing none. Ready for the question? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Let it be noted, Councillor Vroba has reassumed her position on council. Okay, next, under written reports of committees, we have none this evening. Executive reports we have from the City Manager, Downtown Revitalization Funding. I'll just quickly go over the history. The City of Estevan received funding approval for funding related to the downtown revitalization through the federal government's Canadian Coal Transition Initiative, CCTI Infrastructure Fund, which is administered through Prairie Scan. A requirement of the funding is that the city must also contribute funds to the project. Through discussions, it was determined that the city would allocate $1.5 million to complete the underground utilities on the downtown revitalization project. Background and discussion. In the summer of 2021, Council agreed to look at the development of a marketing and strategic plan using funds allocated by Prairie Scan through the CCTI Fund. Doug Griffith, his company, 13 Ways, were hired to complete the work. Part of the work throughout the strategic plan focused on the revitalization of the downtown core and the benefits to the communities that invest in this area. Out of this consultation, it was decided that we apply for additional CCTI funding to complete a detailed downtown revitalization design. The city was awarded additional funding to hire a consultant. Through that process, George Harris Collaborative was awarded the contract, and from September of 2021 through to April of 2022, George Harris Collaborative worked with the city administration, city council, and downtown business associations to begin the discussion. Over that time frame, multiple open houses and surveys were completed, where citizens and businesses were open to provide input into the plan and design. Final design renderings were presented on March 31st. This full design included 8 optional phases, in total combined being $33 million for council to consider when looking at downtown capital investment. In the fall of 2022, an initial expression of interest was submitted to Prairie Scan for infrastructure funding through the CCTI Infrastructure Fund, and this was to complete the work that was mentioned in Phase 1 of the design provided by George Harris Collaborative, with an approximate cost of $8.3 million. In early October of 23, Prairie Scan awarded the city $750,000 to complete the detailed engineering design, complete the procurement process, and purchase long lead time items for the project. On February 29th, 24, Prairie Scan provided the city the funding agreement for the remainder of the project. These would contribute an additional $750,000 towards the completion of the downtown project. During budget discussions, it was noted to council that if we were awarded federal funding for the project, we would have to allocate city funds for the undergrounds. It was mentioned to council at the time we would have approximately $2 million of funds available as of December 31st, 23. It was indicated to council at that time that the city would allocate some of the year-end funds or complete additional borrowing if they wished to move forward with the project once funding approval was received through Prairie Scan. If this is to proceed, the first phase will be the removal of the existing trees on 4th Street, which would require them to be removed prior to April 15th, 2024. They will all be replaced with new trees. Stakeholder engagement will continue throughout the entirety of the project. Options: reject the funding from Prairie Scan. Number 2, allocate $1.5 million of funds from the 23 year-end balance of approximately $2.3 million, or 3, adjust any borrowing in 2024 to include an additional $1.5 million. Note, the estimated net debt reduction during budget was approximately $1.5 million. Recommendations: number 1, to have a motion of council approving the acceptance of the Prairie Scan funding for the approval of the downtown revitalization project. That's the first motion we'll need. Second motion, to ensure that the city can properly manage cash for any unexpected issues. City administration recommends borrowing be adjusted by $1.5 million, and we operate 2024 with no net debt reduction in the budget. So what's the wish of council on this? Councillor Vroba.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, I think this is great news for our city that we have approved this funding. I had a lot of people that called me to discuss this, and one of their biggest concerns was whether or not this money was money that was going to be given to another community if we didn't get it. And the answer was yes. So yes, the federal money is taxpayer dollars, comes from all of us. But if Estevan, Saskatchewan didn't do this and do the downtown revitalization project, than another city in Canada, maybe not even in Saskatchewan, but in Canada, was going to get this funds. So I was just wondering, we don't have this picture up on the screen at all, or can we make sure that the website is on the website once we?
Yeah, should we
Yeah.
pass it around maybe, or?
Well, I think everyone here at council has it, but
Okay.
I think just so that we can make sure that the entire community can see the finalized drawings, because again, I think it's gonna look fantastic. I think it's gonna make our downtown even more appealing, and it's gonna make it accessible, so inclusive and all that good stuff. So, yeah, no, kudos to everyone with the hard work for making sure we got this funding.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Vrober. Are you willing to make the motion for the number 1 that we move forward?
Yes, I will actually make the recommendation for number 1 and number 2, that we go ahead and approve the
Well,
acceptance.
first we need the
First
motion
is
to
number
move
1.
forward, then
Yes.
we'll need
then-
another motion for the second
Okay,
part.
I thought you were gonna do it all in one, but yeah, I'll make the recommendation that we move forward with funding.
Okay, thank you. Have we got a seconder? Councillor Ford.
I'll second that motion, and I've also received a number of phone calls over, the past 3 years, I guess it's been, since we started this, and a lot of people in the last little bit were talking and discussing, and they said, well, if you get this money, why can't you use it towards something like the nursing home or this or that? And the way the granting works with this is we applied for a specific project, so as soon as we got the funding for that project, we are designated to allocate that funding towards that project. So if there were an opportunity to apply for a grant for other things, such as, say, a new nursing home or anything that else was brought up, we would absolutely do that, but this specific money was put towards that project. Another concern I had from a number of people was just wondering about the timeline of it. As far as I know, this money has to be spent by the end of this fiscal year, so this project is going to be done very quickly. It's going to be done with hopefully as little disruptions as possible, but I do ask that we work with marketing, just to work with the community as openly as possible, just to say what's being disrupted, what days, what weeks of this is happening, and just so everybody in the community knows what's happening, and just to keep everybody up to date.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Ford. Councillor Clark.
Thanks, Your Worship. I also want to speak in support of this. I think it's a transition time for a community, and the downtown being vibrant and new will do that. And I think we're seeing that within our community, even at the Marketplace Mall, where they see that we have to change, and I think that's important. I think we have a chance here to do that. It's once in a lifetime to change that. I think the downtown businesses will need the support of the whole community while this is going on, and I think that's important for us to do that. We know that it's going to be disruptive, but it would have been disruptive if we'd just done the underground. So we are just moving that underground being done and giving it a new facelift on top. I think that we'll also find that the money spent, a lot of it will stay in the community, whether it be with the people doing some of the contracts, so hopefully they'll get some of the cement work or the gravel or the underground. And if it's contractors from out of town, they'll use our restaurants and hotels and stay in our community. And I think it will be give some life here. But I really encourage the community to support those businesses in the downtown area to help them through this time. And I think that's important.
Absolutely. Thank you, Councillor Clark. Councillor Walliser.
Thank you, Your Worship. In addition to those comments already made, I think it's really important to focus on the idea that we need others to support our downtown, but we also need to view it as our downtown. So being able to see it as a place that we can choose to gather. The DBA has really started the ball rolling on this already. People are coming downtown for the street dance. They're bringing their families for the Miracle on 4th at Christmas time. People from Eastern Canada have recommended over and over how happy and at home they feel using the night markets. And this project allows to build that so that even more people in our community can feel that sense of belonging, and that the downtown is for us, and that as a community we'll be stronger with a vibrant downtown.
Thank you, Councillor Walliser. Any other questions or comments from members of council? I too think it'll be a great thing. Ready for the question? All in favour? Carried. Thank you very much. And now for the second part. What's the wish of council? To ensure the city can, the recommendation is to ensure the city can properly manage cash for any possible unexpected issues. City administration recommends that borrowing be adjusted by 1.5 million and we operate 2024 with no net debt reduction in the budget. What's the wish of council on this? Councillor Cernick.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll make that motion. to adjust the net debt reduction for the year to ensure we have the funds. Again, this is an opportunity for us to upgrade infrastructure. That'll be the focal point for the city for years to come. And another thing to note too, this allows us to have the cash ready for unexpected issues, but the project can also be geared back a little bit if we do want to, well, if we do, we will remain on budget. So just something to note, but I'll make that motion.
Okay, thank you. Have we got a seconder? Councillor Clark, thank you. Any further observations, questions, comments? Councillor Ford.
Thanks, Your Worship. Sorry, I should have written down on my list, but it's just to note also that, you know, this project was presented to us as a $33 million project. It is, we are not spending $33 million this year. It is what we've seen tonight. It's the 7.7 million that the government has given us, and those other things that were presented us are, you know, for the future. If we find that we need to redo 5th Street, that we need to redo other parts of the downtown in our community, then we'll look further into that. But for now, it's just the phase 1 and I believe phase 2 that we were working on.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Ford. Any other further questions or comments? Sig Dud, ready for the question? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay, next, under executive reports, we have from the city clerk the leave of absence policy. I don't think I'll go through. I believe, you know, with this being in your package, council would have had the opportunity to go through all of this. So we'll just open the floor, if we can get the motion, and then we can discuss the new policy. Councillor Groba.
Thank you, Your Worship. When I read through the policy, I did not see anywhere where it said an unpaid leave. It also brought the question up because there was a portion of the policy that basically stated if someone was to take, a council member was to take a leave for a variety of different reasons, they're going to actually let the mayor know what portion of their duties, if any, they still plan to attend. So I think at that time, then it also has to be looked at if somebody still plans on doing 50% of their duties and available for 50%, then that would be possibly only a half-time leave. And so I just don't think anywhere in this policy it speaks of that. So I was just wondering, did we leave that out so that it can be dealt with as a case-by-case basis? Okay.
I think so.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's why I just wanted to make sure.
Okay, good point, though. Okay, thank you for that. Any other questions, comments? Go ahead, Councillor Wallies.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think one of the questions I've heard the most frequently is why now? Why do we need a policy when the city has been in place for 67 years and no one has needed to take a leave for parental reasons previously? And I think the really key feature of this policy is that it allows for choice. It places value on things like maternity leave, parental leave, leave in case of a medical illness, while also still reflecting the individual circumstance of the people on council. So it's not saying that each person's leave needs to be the exact same. It allows flexibility while also providing support. I might be the first person that has given birth on city council in Estevan, but I'm sure that many men have also had children while being on council and would not have had a way to articulate their need for some time at home to help with the transition. And so moving forward, each member of council has that same opportunity to create a solution that's fit for them. So I would like to make the motion for this to be adopted for use.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Wallies. Have we got a seconder?
Councillor Verba was initiated it.
Right, but I don't think Councillor Verba made a motion yet.
No, I didn't actually make a motion, and as I was basically rereading this thing, it does say a member of council shall continue to receive their salary during an authorized leave of absence. So I have an issue with approving this package, because when I first read it, I completely missed that sentence. And even as I just stated, I don't believe somebody that's on city council that takes an authorized leave of absence should be paid their salary. The per diem, or the money that we're paid on a monthly basis, is basically because we're there for the people, and that this is not a job. In my opinion, we're a part-time position, and the money that we're paid is because we're available to the city, citizens, the taxpayers. So I will not second this as it's written. I think it needs to be done on a case-by-case basis. I think, again, if, Councillor Walliser and I spoke of this before, because yes, she's given birth, and I had a death in the family during my term. I've also been with another councillor who had a sickness, and heard from other councils that have had sicknesses. And I do believe that we have the right and a duty to give these people these absences. I just don't, it doesn't sit well with me to see a paid absence when you're on council, because if you're having an absence, you're not doing your duties.
Okay, perhaps, and I know, Councillor Walliser, you made that motion. Would it be okay if we send it back to include that segment of unpaid? Would you like that in there, Councillor Froba?
I personally would just like to, again, if Councillor Walliser wants to leave the motion as it is, the rest of council may vote it in, but I personally would just like to see it be on a case-by-case basis where pay is determined by council of the day. Because like I said earlier, if you're doing 50% of your duties, then I think you're entitled to 50% of your pay. If you're doing 0% of your duties, then I don't think that the pay should come. I think it just has to be decided, because again, I think this is a great policy. It'll allow people to be able to run for council, still have your family life, still have your time to grieve or to be ill without, I would have an issue with myself taking payment if I took 6 to 8 weeks or 6 to 8 months from council, because this is not a job. I believe I ran for council to help out my community, and it was, I guess, a duty in my mind, but also an honor, but it's not a job, so.
Okay, well, thank you, Councillor Vroba, for those comments. And I guess it is in here that, you know, it has to be approved by council. So maybe that caveat, if they thought it opportune to say you'll get to leave, but you're not getting paid for that, could still be left up to council when they make that decision, correct?
It could, but it's written in here, a member of council shall continue to receive their salary during an authorized leave of absence.
It does say that.
So if we leave that statement in, I think it says it, but I do think we have a motion on the floor, so I think we just have to see if we have a seconder.
Yeah, have we got a seconder to approve this? Okay, I'm not, sorry, Councillor Walliser, I'm not seeing a seconder. If you like, then, Councillor, maybe we can send it back, Councillor Vroba, and see if we can put something in there to address the cases whereby you may not get paid. You may get the absence, but you may not get paid.
I actually would totally make the motion to approve this policy as long as we change the statement in number 2 to state a member of council may continue to receive their salary during an authorized leave of absence based on the time allotted that they are available, and it will be determined by council. Or it's, I think it just has.
Or you could even put a comma, or it may be, council may decide that you get to leave but not to pay.
Right, so I think it has to go back to the drawing board so that we don't just willy-nilly make up a couple statements here. And I think it needs to go back just to have it really put down on paper what needs to be said.
Okay,
and then
well,
come back to council.
We can include that. So you're making
I
a
would like to
motion,
make
it
a
goes
motion
back and
to
we
table
make
it.
them changes?
Yeah.
Okay, have we got a seconder, Councillor Ford?
I actually just have a comment on that. I'm kind of on both sides of the fence here, which is tough, but it's really hard to describe what a counselor's duty is or how much effort you're putting in. Yes, attending meetings you might not be able to, say if you've just had a baby or something, but I can't imagine if one of us were on a leave, if somebody called us from the community, that we'd pick up the phone and I'd say, no, call Councillor Cernick, I'm not working, right? It's hard to quantify how much work you're putting in if 20 people email you in a day and you feel the ability to email back, right? So that kind of puts a restraint on being able to judge that. So maybe we just need to say a member of council may continue to receive their salary. Maybe we don't actually need all the other extra stuff at the end of that, and then it would be up to council to decide. But again, it's hard to measure that, because I think all of us at the end of the day would answer our phone if a community member called. We might not be able to go to a meeting.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Ford. I think that's a good point. If we have just put may in there, which is not a mandatory requirement, shall is, then that tosses it back to council to make that decision. They may get paid or they may not. Councillor Walliser.
Thank you, Your Worship. In the goals of this policy, it states that the goal is to intend for leave of absences without authorization by resolution of council. So I would hesitate to introduce may clauses instead of shall clauses when the intention is that the policy can be accessed outside of authorization by resolution of council. So I will make the motion to table this so administration and council can continue working on it.
Okay, we've already got the motion, so then that can be the seconded. Go ahead, Councillor Froba.
Yeah, I just wanted to say we should also take into consideration if it doesn't go to the council of the day to make the decision, we're putting ourselves in a shall position where it's like, what happens if 4 of us, 3 of us, more than one of us needed the same leave at the same time? I think that's why it has to almost go back to council of the day to make the determination. No different if you're having a leave of absence and your manager or the person who's in charge of the organization has to make the decision how many people can be gone at the same time. Again, that's where it would, I guess, depend on the need, or if we still have to run business of the city day to day. So yeah, I definitely support that we table it and go back, but I think we need to put a lot of thought into this policy.
Okay, well, now we've got that motion seconded. So any further observation, questions, comments? Seeing none. Ready for the question? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay, next under executive reports, we have from the water manager, the drinking water annual report for 23. Thank you, Shane, for coming. Sean tonight, Sean Shade. I've said it twice now. Any comments you want to make before we throw it to council? Shane?
Thank you, Worship. It was a pretty average year. We did have the taste and odor issue. We found running the water through the pipeline at night, because the plant is only on for so many hours a day. We run the pipeline. I ran the pipeline at night to make sure that we flushed that water out so the water wasn't becoming stagnant, and that seemed to help. The only other thing to note is that we have seen an increase in hardness. It's sitting at about 320. I think when we first brought it online, it was sitting around 220. So people can adjust their softeners as needed for that. And other than that, it's been a pretty average year. Things break, we fix, and just produce water.
Yeah, thank you. And I know that we do need some upgrades that probably we can look at in the fall, put them in the fall budget and make sure they're taken care of, correct?
Yes, Your Worship. So this year we are allocating to replace pump 3 at the water treatment plant. I've been replacing actuators as required. We had one of our distribution flow meters fail. When I redid the meter and the piping, a whole bunch of piping upstream of it started to leak and spray all over the place, so that'll be replaced with pump 3. So you kind of work with what happens. It's some of it's from 57 and the other half was built in 86, so it's working with what you got and just making her last. Absolutely.
Appreciate that. Thank you. We'll open to the floor to council. Any questions, comments? And we'll need a motion, please. Councillor Clark.
Thanks, Your Worship. Are volumes going up or staying steady, or where are we at? Thank you, Your Worship.
Your Worship and Councillor Clark, I've noticed that this last summer was increased from the year previous because we had rain, more so in spring. Our main demand is over the summer months. Our flows double to 2.5 times more. I find if it's a wetter spring, people water their lawns longer, and if it's a dry spring, people just kind of give up on their lawns or don't want to pay the water bill. So that's generally what I find with the flow. So they're staying pretty consistent throughout the year.
Okay, go ahead.
Sorry, Your Worship, I have one follow-up. We had talked about moving the loading for water, for commercial water. Have we had any thing on that?
Yeah, we've got that, that's in the package. Yep, yep, or it's coming, yep.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I did a report on that. That should be for the next council
Next
package.
So, yeah, we are going ahead with that, Councillor Clark. Okay, Councillor Cernak.
Thank you, Worship. I'll make the motion to approve. Excuse me.
Okay.
Just speaking of grants and all that sort of fun stuff, do we have any applications in for any upgrades in the future? I just noticed a few towns around us are getting a little bit of monies here and there, so.
City Manager.
Thank you, Your Worship, Councillor Sunick. So a lot of those were being awarded through the ISIP program, and that was the last federal government program to put out funding like that. So that's the same program that we got funded for our pathways and some of that stuff. So the federal government hasn't announced what their next funding will be. In that case, I believe there is some green infrastructure funding in regards to renewables and some of that stuff. But we work with a consultant to make sure that if there is any funding that we can apply for, that they notify us, and we keep our ears to the ground on that type of funding. So if there is a new funding initiative coming from the federal government or the province, we'll make sure to bring it to council for consideration.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion. Have we got a seconder, please? Councillor Clark. Any further questions, comments, observations? Seeing none. Ready for the question? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. And thank you, Shane, for staying under executive reports. We have from the Water Manager the wastewater annual report. Anything you'd like to speak on that?
Thank you, Worship. This year, much like the water plant, just regular maintenance as we go. The wastewater plant has actually been producing water quite well. The main kind of focus of it is getting that pilot project up and running. That was a grant that was awarded through FCM that we should be receiving funds shortly on to help cover the cost. So we do have the pilot project built. It was completed over winter, and I need to water test it, and it's might be able to do it in the next couple days if it stays warm, but I don't want it to freeze up and then be left with a giant block of ice. So I'm looking forward to get that up and running and then start the pilot project for that.
Good, and thank you for your effort on that. That's kind of cutting edge technology, and we're hoping that'll work out, and if it does, it'll be a lot more cost effective than the mechanical system for sure. Any questions from council on that? If not, could we have a motion, please, to accept the wastewater annual report? Thank you, Councillor Walliser. Seconded by Councillor Ford. Any further questions, comments? Seeing none. Ready for the question? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Next, we have the water quality report for February. Did you have any comments on that, Jay?
None, Your Worship.
Okay, thank you. Could we have a motion, please, for that? Thank you. Councillor Cernak.
Your Worship, just sorry,
Go ahead.
just a quick little, the water tower, everything's good? Probably asked that before, I can't remember though.
Your Worship, to Councillor Cernak, everything on the water tower is running really well. The coating of it and the dumping, we seem to be getting better water quality because it's not being eaten up by the metal or poking holes in it. So the water tower is no longer leaking and it's working great.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're very happy with the job that was done there. The old girl was in pretty rough shape. And Becca and I and Jacqueline, who else attended with us? Anyone else, or just me and the two ladies went up top in the water tower? Kirsten, weren't you there? Okay, well, it was exciting. Remember, it was good. There was a lot of work done, and it's very large once you get up in there. Wow, that's a big place. But no, that's great. So do we have a seconder on that, please? Okay, thank you, Councillor Walliser. Ready for the question? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Next, under executive reports, could we have a motion to accept the building permit for February? Thank you, Councillor Clark, seconded by Councillor Cernak. Ready for the question? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Under introduction of bylaws, we have none this evening. Public hearings and reports, none this evening. Giving notice, nothing. Motions from committee, not tonight. Consideration of bylaws, not this evening. Inquiries, Councillor Froba.
Thank you, Your Worship. I had an inquiry actually from the curator from the Estevan Art Gallery, and he indicated that he had heard that the AED machines were becoming kind of almost a requirement for public buildings. So I reached out to our safety person, Helen Forringwald, and she actually had an extra one. So she's going to be making sure that gets set up at the art gallery. So that's good. And then the other thing is the art gallery as well is having a fundraiser on March 23rd. So I have tickets, they're $40 each. And if anyone is interested in coming, you can also dress up as the 1920s and wear your best flapper gear and come on down. It's going to be kind of a speakeasy night. So yeah, it should be a good time, and it's going to be nice for the art gallery because this is their first fundraiser since pre-COVID, and it's very nice to be able to see people getting back and having these kind of things. So,
Absolutely. Yeah, we wish them every success. Unfortunately, I'll be out of town. I was looking forward to that.
I'll call your wife, see if she can come.
She's with me.
I'll pick her up.
Okay. Councillor Clark.
Nothing tonight, Your Worship.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Wellese.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just wanted to mention the Southeast Tech Hub and the information night that they hosted last Wednesday. It was very well attended. There were lots of stories shared and encouragement provided to the members of the community about all of the things that we may not recognize make us unique and the ways in which we can utilize those to bring new investment into the community moving forward. It was very interesting, very encouraging, and the entire thing is available on their website so that if you weren't able to attend, you can still get the information. The other thing I would like to mention is Citywide coming up, and that they have released all of the groups that will be there. It looks like there's quite a wide variety of opportunities to really engage with our community, and many parents are on the edge of their seat for swimming lessons. So there's information on the website about the new program that we've launched now that Red Cross doesn't offer swimming lessons anymore, but also that the info desk can help parents in trying to navigate where their child would best fit within the new program.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Councillor Wellese. And yeah, we have a lot of moving parts in the background that Gord and Tanya and the Tech Hub, our people out there are working on. Graphite from our coal, hydrogen from our coal, a data center. So it's very exciting. Councillor Ford.
Thanks, Your Worship. Just to add to the Tech Hub, our 2-year anniversary is coming up in May, so stay tuned for an event coming up in May. We're just finalizing or going to be talking about some plans for that. And then just one more thing, I had an inquiry about Spruce Drive when you're leaving the comp. So if you're leaving the comp from Spruce Drive and you head west towards Albert Street, once you turn from that 3-way stop from the comp, if you're turning right, there's no actual speed zone signs from that 3-way stop from the comp all the way to Albert Street. And if you're turning onto Albert Street, from Albert Street to the comp, there's no speed zone signs on that spot either. So once you go past the 3-way stop towards No Frills, there's speed zone signs, but that stretch, there's absolutely none. So I just had a couple questions actually, and it was from actually a group of parents that asked if we could maybe look at getting some speed zone or 30-kilometer signs there, because there's none indicated.
Yeah, absolutely. Councillor Ford, we can have our people look at that. Yep, thank you. Councillor Cernick?
Thank you, Your Worship. I just had an inquiry into additional lighting, the 4-way stop out front of the curling rink and Affinity Place there, and the bright new sign that advertises is bright over there, but the actual corner I went and looked and it is pretty dark, so I'm just thinking we'll have some extra street lights from 4th Street. Just might be an opportunity to distribute around town.
Sure.
Using those, so.
Okay, we'll keep that in mind. Thank you. City Manager?
Nothing to add, Your Worship.
Okay. City Treasurer?
Nothing, Your Worship.
City Clerk?
Nothing tonight, Your Worship.
Okay, with that, do we have a motion to move into committee? Thank you. Councillor Cernick, seconded by Councillor Ford. Ready for the question? All in favor? Carried. Thank you so much, and good evening.
If you'd like to share your feedback on the program you just watched, contact us today